Welcome back, guys. My name is Jake, and today I want to be a little bit generous. So this is Randy. Randy's been one of my best friends on this planet for a long time. And fun thing about Randy is he actually designed this sweater that I'm wearing right now. He's a graphic designer, artist, always has made all of my favorite pieces of art. So I'm the biggest Randy art fan there is out there, maybe except for his wife. Oh, there's a Randy painting right there as well. Actually, almost everything in this room has been painted by him and me together when we were teenagers. Now, Randy has told me recently, he said, Jake, I've always wanted to play guitar, but I've never had one. And I was like, well, dude, I could figure that out. It's Christmas coming up. Your birthday's in a few weeks. Yeah, I can get you a guitar. We'll make that happen. So I went ahead and grabbed this off of my favorite place to do shopping, Facebook Marketplace. Now, this is a Squier Bullet. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about Squier guitars, but they've kind of been growing on me a lot over the last year or so, just because I work a lot and I don't always have time to practice at home. But I do get breaks at work, and for those, I would like to have some travel-sized guitar that I could kick the crap out of and really not care about. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, the Squier mini guitars have really impressed me. I've never been a Fender fan or a Strat fan in general, but these have definitely kind of been tickling my fancy lately. So I picked this up, crafted in Indonesia, and it's like this green color. It got it for like $100, which for what it is isn't bad. I believe that the Squier mini guitars are going for about $220 right now. So getting this at a 50% off is pretty good deal. Now, the story behind this guitar is actually kind of sad. I got it off of this awesome dude on Facebook Marketplace, and when I went to meet with him, he had told me that this had belonged to his son, who passed away not too long ago, a few years back. And getting rid of this was kind of his way of moving forward. I guess his son had been involved in some things, and he crashed his car on the freeway and passed away. But he was a very talented musician. He could play, I guess, 4 instruments, and this guitar was one of them. Now, I'm sure he had upgraded and had different guitars that he cared about. Since this was probably one of his starter guitars, but just because of that alone, I wanted to give this guitar a little bit of treatment. So we're going to go ahead and polish this one up because it looks like it's been, you know, kind of cast aside for the last couple years and needs just a little bit of love. But that being said, if we bring it up closer, the paint is actually not terrible. There's a little bit of chipping right down here. The metal all looks a little bit smudged, and there's actually some rust right here on the bridge. So we'll clean all this up, get the neck oiled and not all dusty, and do a string change and set it up for playing in standard tuning. But I think for $100, this is definitely not a terrible buy. Let's go ahead and change the strings and get it taken care of. Naturally, the first thing that we're gonna do is cut off these strings. Get rid of all the scraps, pull them at the bottom, and now we have a nice place to work. Let's just clean up some of this grime off all of the polished parts. I don't know what kind of metal that is, probably some type of tin. And my wife is absolutely making sure that I clean every little bit of this as best as I can. Now, I don't want to get the same cleaner that I use on the steel as I want to get on the wood. So that's why I'm being very careful not to touch that part here. And now we're going to put on some of that wood oil. Already in the room, you can tell that the wood is looking extremely nice, much nicer than it was before with all that dust and grime caked on there. My wife pointing out the things that I miss again, and the neck is looking beautiful. Now, the action and I don't know what you call that. The height of these bolts was definitely not optimal. They were all like jagged up and down. So we went ahead and fixed that, just even them out and see how that does. And now we're gonna mask off our fretboard. This part is usually the longest part of cleaning up any of these guitars that we're getting off Marketplace. And let's just test it, see what it looks like. Oh my goodness, the fretboard looks incredible. So let's keep masking. And we're gonna go all the way down the neck. It was around this time in recording that my wife decided this is gonna take way too long and I have to go to work soon. So she jumped in and helped me as well, which I love having little projects that we can work on together because it's nice. My wife doesn't play an instrument, but she is absolutely artsy and very crafty. So when we get to have these little projects together, it's really fun for both of us to just hang out and spend time together, sharing a common goal. Now, if you care to notice, I'm cutting out that little bit right there, and that's because my masking tape is too thick. If you've never noticed before, I'm happy to tell you, but the frets are actually much wider at the top than they are at the bottom of the neck. And that's because of intonation. And it makes me think about the mathematics and thought and care and hundreds of years of trial and error that went into making these instruments that we love to play. Here I am buffing out some of these frets, that way they're nice and shiny. My wife wanted to take a turn at it because it looked fun, so I let her do the rest of the way down. But back to the history of the guitar, before, the frets were actually not made out of metal. Guitar frets in the past had been made out of wood or even strings that you would tie around your neck and be able to move around, which just sounds awful to me. Speaking of frets, I noticed that some of these were pinching on my fingers and they didn't pass the sock test, where you run some type of fabric along the edge of the neck and see where it catches. So I went ahead and took some files and just filed them down just enough to make sure they don't cut your hands as you play the guitar. Just feeling for some hot spots, found one, and just a little bit, boom. That's enough to make it all go away. Very important you don't hit your wood and you're just filing off that little bit that needs to be filed. And now everything is looking good. Let's go ahead and grab these strings. I grabbed the D'Addario XL wound 9s, so they're very light, you know, they're a light string gauge, but I think that's going to be better in the long run for my friend, as he doesn't have the hand strength or muscle memory developed yet, and the lighter string gauge will make it so that way it's just a little bit easier to learn how to do things like bar chords and bends and stuff like that. So I think beginners is absolutely necessary to start at a 9 gauge string. However, I tend to play 10s or 11s because I down tune to tunings like drop C or even, you know, drop A and G sharp. So for me, the light strings is definitely a no-go. But if you're playing in standard tuning and you're just getting to know the instrument, there is nothing wrong with using a light gauge string. I do genuinely hate how the Stratocaster goes through this hole in the bottom, and then you kind of have to like arch it up into the saddle, which then is difficult to get through, and it's kind of a nightmare. Not my favorite production thing that they do, but you know, it's whatever. Let's go ahead and get these strings tightened up with this handy little tool here. And this is one of those quality of life tools that makes stringing guitars so much easier. Just night and day difference. I would have been here for 20 minutes in the past and not have done it as quickly. But with this, I just zip it right on there and bloop, 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 there we go. So now that all of our strings are put on, let's go ahead and clip off these tails and make sure we throw those away because those suck to get stuck in your fingers and feet. Ask me how I know. Now we're just gonna do a quick little tune here. Excellent. Now we are playing an in-tune guitar. The next thing we're going to check is our intonation. And when it comes to the intonation here, I wasn't exactly thrilled with it. However, some of the screws at the bottom were stripped out. So I may just end up replacing them for him, or I may just have him take care of that by himself, just as a little project to help him become, a little bit more familiar with his instrument. So we have everything cleaned up, just cleaned it up, made the frets nice and shiny, oiled up that neck, which I will say is looking beautiful in the sunlight. So let's go ahead and see how it sounds. Now we are running this guitar through the Archetype Misha Mansour clean channels. I believe it's called Classic Clean, with just a little bit of reverb on it. So let's go ahead and... Alright, it doesn't sound terrible. So these pickups are definitely not very hot. They're very passive. But that's not necessarily the worst thing for low gain music. Full. This guitar is playing extremely nice now. I really like how it sounds. Let's do a gain test. Let's do a little gain test too. I have this cheap bag that I bought off of Amazon for one of my other guitars, but I think this one is going to go in here. Boom. And it's ready to get sent off to Randy for his birthday / Christmas. And inside of the pack, I'm actually giving him a pack of Tortex. They're great picks. And I think for a beginner, a nice full-size pick is great. As many of you probably saw, I use a Jazz 3. So I think these are a little bit more advanced and will develop bad habits for him over time. Start off with the Tortexes. We put 9s on there just because, like I said, he is a beginner. So the 9s should be very easy to learn on. And as he wants to do heavier music, he'll probably move up to heavier strings. But that being said, guys, really happy to have done this. I think this was a great find. Tell me how you feel about Squier guitars and if you think that they're worth the money, if they're a good starter guitar. What guitar did you start on? Because I started on a BC Rich Warlock Bronze series. Now, I know you guys are going to roast me in the comments for that, but I don't care. I like it. I loved it. So I always wished I kind of had a Squier, though. They just seem versatile, they're useful, and it seems like everybody's first guitar is a Squier Strat. So welcome to the family, Randy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.